right, well, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session of Culinary Mind Foods on Food Tourism. I'm Dr. Carrie Matwick, part of the School of Humanities at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. I'm happy to be collaborating with Culinary Mind, Center for the Philosophy of Food. It's been a delight to work with Andre Borghini, Nicola Pires, and Beatrice Serini, as well as all the other great members of your team. We're delighted to have you here for what promises to be an engaging discussion on how food shapes, expresses, and transforms the way we travel. So one of the first questions you may be asked is on after a trip is, well, what did you eat? And so, food tourism is not simply about eating, but it's about your experience and your identity and heritage and your memories of the place. And so the ways that people connect across cultures through taste and through food. So today we'll be hearing from three really interesting perspectives on this theme. We have Dr. Eerang Park from Edith Cowan University, Prima Nurahmi Mulyasari from Nanyang Technological University, and Dr. Kelsi Matwick from Stanford. So each presentation will run about 20 minutes, and then we'll have question and answer at the end. So do keep track of your questions, but we will address them at the end. So our first speaker is Dr. Eerang Park from Edith Cowan University. Eerang is a leading researcher in the field of food and tourism. Her research Her research explores the complexities and dynamics of food, travel, and society from multiple stakeholder perspectives, emerging in Asian tourism, in emerging Asian tourism platforms and discourses. She's an editor of many interesting books, and including 2075, The Futures of Food Tourism, Handbook on Food Tourism, and Food Tourism in Asia. So today, Dr. Eerang will present Tasteful Journey of Edible Heritage Tourism, Constructing Food Experiences in Phuket. I'd like to hand it over to you, Dr. Eerang.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction and for the opportunity to discuss my research today. So let me first share my screen. Okay, so I think everyone see. I don't know whether we are seeing the right screen.
Yes.
Okay, are you seeing the full screen?
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay, that's good because I don't see the circle, but anyway, I think it works. Okay, let me start. Okay, today I'm presenting the local stakeholders' involvement in creating the food tourism experience. And as introduced, many of you may be keen to explore and enjoy the exotic food in other culture. And I present some figures here. As these figures show, the tourists worldwide have a growing interest in food experience on their holidays. And more than half of the leisure tourists claim that they are the food tourists. And the millennials have been the biggest market driven by the food-driven motivation. And their immediate followers, Gen Z, are genuine food lovers with better knowledge about food, and leading them to seek out authentic local food. And upon closer examination of the Asia-Pacific region where my research is based, recent market research by Agoda indicate that travelers visit Asia's top destinations primarily for the food experience. And more and more people revisit their favorite destination, with 75% of the repeat visitors in their survey. And the second most common reason to revisit was food. And in response to the increasing demand for food tourism, the product and experience have become diverse and ranging from the conventional organized food tours to festivals, street food, cooking classes, and even rural farm stays. So independent travelers who prefer more unorganized experience tend to explore the local hospitality scene more, including the world's best restaurant and Michelin-starred eateries and the city's top dining spots. And not only the local food outlets, but also the food retail shops are popular food tourism environment. Now, many tourists enjoyed shopping for the food souvenirs in the local supermarket. And food travelers seek the destination where they can immerse themselves in a local daily food life rather than just a sightseeing. And as shown in this quote, which are from my current research on food behaviors, food tourists wants to continue enjoying the authentic flavor by bringing the key ingredient back home. And the food evoked emotion makes the experience of tourists even closer to the traveled destination. And such a feeling is a stimulus for the repeat visit. So this is what is happening in food tourism today. But there are critical research gaps. The literature have predominantly examined the food experience from the tourist perspectives, largely neglecting the significance of the local stakeholders' perspectives on the subject matter. And the perspectives of local stakeholders is of paramount importance, especially in the cultural heritage destination, where the collective and cooperative effort to preserve and promote the local food and the local food cultures are under pressure. Besides, food tourism is often approached by investigating the single or multiple dishes that represent the destination or the physical taste of the food on site, which often overlook the social and cultural elements that are essential to the overall destination experience. And in fact, they engage in more than just the act of eating for food experiences throughout the full cycle of the tourism experience, evolving from the previous stages through the peak experience on site and to a prolonged connection at the post-visit stage via the memory, reflection, and nostalgia. So this research aimed to discover what regional or local element of local food tourism stakeholders have identified and how they've perceived and used those elements to create the ultimate food experience in the context of the UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy, Phuket in Thailand. Just for information, the UNESCO Creative City scheme aims to appreciate the intangible heritage asset, such as gastronomy, literature, craft art, music, and so on, to leverage the regional development by taking the heritage resources for place development and economic, cultural, environmental, and the social term. So Phuket is a famous beach destination, but Phuket has been the settlement site for the Portuguese, Muslim, and Chinese migrants. So the dynamic relationship developed from the inherited food resources of various ethnic groups led to the development of the unique Southern Thai food. So, and the Peranakan, so-called half Chinese and half Thai, and their food culture have long been featured in the multicultural society of Phuket. Especially the old Phuket town, located on the inner island, retains the unique cultural landscape and culinary heritage. For its rich cultural attribute and the food and culinary resources, the city has been a member of the UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy since 2015. So this research explored the local stakeholders' perception and their involvement in identifying the tangible and intangible elements that conveys the cultural meanings and how these elements are transformed into the ultimate food experiences across the circular phase of the tourist journey from pre-visit to on-site and post-visit. The ethnographic research was conducted through the site visit, participation in tours, and observation of walking tours, cooking classes, and a street market, as well as 10 interviews with the local stakeholders in 2018. And the respondents participated in this research highlighted that the UNESCO Creative City labels represent the distinctive gastronomic identity of Phuket and serves as a focal point for all the food-related experience that benefit tourists. As such, the tourist experience as the epitome of the local identity in Phuket was constantly mentioned during the interviews with an emphasis on the collective notion of we. So in detail, this study identifies 6 key drivers at 3 phases of food experience, and each driver involves several local elements that are coordinated and staged in various modes to create and develop 4 sequential food experiences, which are awareness and exposure to the local environment, tasting experience driven by the sensory and cognitive experience, and memory. So initially, the local tourism stakeholders were eager to attract more diverse tourists to the town by promoting the food and gastronomy culture. The hope was that the food tourism may mitigate ongoing seasonality and gradually replace the predominant beach holiday market segment with more culturally conscious and educated tourists who are believed to be the target demographics for food tourism. However, the stakeholders recognized that many tourists were unaware of the Phuket's gastronomic specialties before their travel. So the UNESCO label was perceived to create an enhanced awareness of Phuket gastronomic merit. And a series of activities took place across the town as part of the UNESCO Creative City project, and the outcomes were used for marketing and promotion via social media and the private sector. For example, the most crucial aspect from the local perspective was the preservation of the ethnic and local food, whilst taking the first step to making the local food more widely available. So ultimately, it can be recognized as an iconic food, contributing to the food tourist awareness. And in the center, the Peranakan food, a part of the Phuket's local ethnic tradition, was prioritized for relaunching and increased accessibility. So high-end local restaurant owners supported this effort by serving long-forgotten dishes such as muhong in a reinterpreted form in their fine dining service. And local tour operators and tour guides in particular hoped to utilize more cultural resources for marketing and promotion of Phuket UNESCO designation, especially with the newly created set of the wall paintings in the old Phuket town. And celebrating the Phuket's joining of the UNESCO Creative City in 2015, the Food Art Town Phuket initiative was founded in 2016. And predominantly, it was the outcome of a group of public artists who worked collaboratively across the town, illustrating thematic local lives, events, customs, and cultural norms represented in the distinctive foodways of the locality. So an example painting on the right-hand side, entitled Home Kitchen, symbolized the multicultural family, which is very common in Phuket society. It depicts a Thai auntie in the center with a mixed Asian-looking girl on the left and a man wearing the Muslim dress on the right. And their grocery baskets are filled with the Thai veggies and the 4-tier Peranakan tiffin carriers as commonly used in the Phuket life. So this visual appeal of the wall painting would stimulate the potential tourist curiosity for the stories behind the artwork and ultimately generate interest in the Phuket's unique food culture and identity. However, this is an area that local have largely neglected. So in this regard, all the stakeholders postulated that the more proactive marketing and promotion by the public and private sector was necessary, and the social media was very much emphasized. And moving on to the on-site experience, the local stakeholders highlighted that the importance of putting great emphasis of stimulating both cognitive and sensory experience of local food. So the respondent collectively regarded a sense of place or sense of locality as a welcoming orientation for subsequent tasting experience, which is the best formed in the physical setting, such as a ward in the historic area, and food precinct or local market, together with the unique architectural style of the food outlet, for they provide places in which to be psychologically familiar with the local culture and the customs. And sense of place is formed through the informative communication practice, labeling, and the promotion of the local food, which is showcased alongside on-site offerings. For example, the Chinese Museum in the town was the most visited spot on walking tours, offering a wealth of the historical background of Hokkien migration and the evolution of the multicultural foodways. And consequently, today's must-eat for the iconic southern flavors are driven by this rich heritage. And tour guide and the UNESCO Creative City project leader highlighted that the street art would become a rite of passage for tourists. In the Old Town, there are 11 wall paintings, and it is open to tourist engagement in various ways. And in walking tours, a tour guide explains the stories behind each painting and the conflict between the conservation and development the town went through, because all the buildings featured in these paintings are heritage buildings. And by following the street art collection and sharing the stories, the locals aims to foster a sense of locality among the tourists, providing them with a deeper understanding of their food culture and social context before the actual tasting experience. And street food and the local market were stressed as the conduit through which tourists became closer to the local lifestyle. And local suppliers stressed that the cooking class is particularly popular alongside the wet market tour, because tourists engage with the various local food spaces ranging from wet market to the local kitchen. And it was noted that during my participant observation, tourist engagement with and their interest in the local food space were greater when classes took place in the instructor's own kitchen or traditional Thai-styled kitchen. And the participant of the cooking classes gained an understanding of various cookery tools and ingredients, as well as serving method while cooking their own dishes. Then for the tasting experience around the regional cuisine, both sensory experience and cognitive experience were highlighted. First of all, the concept of the local food was clearly identified by the local stakeholders. They collectively appreciate the unique food culture hybridized by the various ethnic groups who settled in Phuket, saying that Thai Chinese, Thai Indian, Thai Muslims to be tasted. And the local stakeholders collectively claims the gustatory sensorial experience to be essential for the certain spiciness, balanced taste, freshness of a herb, and the visual appeal of the colorful Thai food that created a distinctively authentic Phuket cuisine. And they also highlighted the importance of a fresh ingredient and Oriental philosophy of the relationship between the food and health as part of the holistic sensorial experience. And the tasting experience from the local stakeholders' view was intended to be profoundly designed, particularly for the cognitive experience. And food production and the service sectors are particularly distinctive with innovation through carefully crafted interpretations. What they meant by the innovation was not just the way they tailor for the different market demand, but designing food experience using the ready-made local product. A company renowned for its Southern Thai food specialty product has developed a wide range of regional food products with a twist, making them more appealing to the international tourists than the ordinary consumption among the locals. For example, the flavor of the national dish, which is hot and sour soup called tom yum, was typically served with light snacks or coffee, which neither international nor domestic tourists necessarily welcome. But interestingly, the increasing sales volumes verify the popularity. Also, a range of different flavor of the cashew nut was developed as part of telling the historical background of cashew nut farming in Phuket after the loss of its famous tea mining industry. Besides, the package design was motivated by the use of tangible heritage, mostly built heritage, which was directly linked to the food souvenir presentation to make it feel more authentic. So here's the full collection of food souvenir packages, modular building that depicts the townscape. Such food souvenirs inherently become a means of interpreting the built heritage and take-home stories and historical landscape. So these cases demonstrate that the storytelling is not necessarily verbal or written, but can be abstract or even conveyed in a collection of toys or packages as a perfect memory for the tourist. And lastly, the local stakeholders' recognition of the post-travel stage was clear, with the emphasis on the lingering memory. They commonly pointed out that the tourists, once returning home with a good impression of the on-site experience, are likely to feel nostalgic, which is often triggered by other social media posts, as well as the Thai restaurant in their home environment. And they observed that their choice customers were encouraged to replicate Thai cooking experience at home as a reflective practice of their previous culinary encounters. So all the cooking classes observed during the site visit provided their recipe books to class participants with other memorabilia, such as aprons or branded ornaments or locally produced dried herbs to trigger the fond memories when returning home. So here's a conclusion of this research. Phuket has a unique food discourses cultivated through the local culture, heritage, and history, showcases a clear link between the food and the tourism in various social contexts, including the multicultural communities, diverse industries, and the visitor economies, all of which generate the meaning through the production and consumption of food heritage between the locals and the tourists. And it was evident that the UNESCO designation helped the destination better identify the elements of the local food culture and develop the appropriate method to engineer discrete aspects of the food experiences throughout the multiple stage of the tourism experience development. And the keyword is we. All the experiential elements are rooted in a destination, and identifying who we are and what we eat can be a starting point to identifying all the elements of regional food experience, as the relevant all the local stakeholders in this research constantly referred to we. And the relevant food tourism stakeholders attempted to identify, package, and stage and promote multiple elements of the local food identities at the individual and the collaborative level. And each driver of the tourism experience cycle is interrelated, and they play a different but equally important role in contributing to the creation of a food experience anchored in the multicultural identity. And more importantly, the local stakeholders' recognition of their roles in the success, challenges, and expectations over the three phases of the tourism experience clearly exist, and it is needed to be harnessed for the food destination development. So this is the full source of the publication of this research, which is open access. So some of you may have a closer look at for further details. Thank you very much for your attention.
Great. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Eerang. That was great. So yeah, great. So now we'll go ahead on to our second speaker is Prima Nurahmi Mulyasari, a PhD student in the history department at Nanyang Technological University. So Prima is also a researcher at the Institute for Social Sciences and Humanities in Indonesia as well. She's a second-year student, and she holds an MA in history from Leiden University in the Netherlands. And Prima's doctoral research explores the intersection between food, faith, and state with a particular focus on Southeast Asia. In this presentation, Prima will discuss food, faith, and state, Indonesian food, establishments, and halal tourism in Singapore. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Prima. Oh, we can't quite hear you yet. I don't know. Your slides look good.
Can you hear me? No?
Perfect. Great.
Okay. Okay. I would like to sincerely thank you for the organization of this event, Culinary Mind and the Food Studies Cluster, SOHNTU, for the opportunity to present my work here. It is truly an honor to be part of this discussion alongside distinguished scholars in the field of food tourism. Today, I'm very happy to share with you my research in progress titled Food, Faith, and State, Indonesian Food Establishments and Halal Tourism in Singapore. This is still a rough draft of my paper, which will eventually form part of my faith and Singapore in food lovers. However, the situation 88, a Muslim resident bought the straight Thai, Indian, or Indonesian food because many other options were not halal. Over time, this picture has changed. In 2013, more than 2,600 establishments in Singapore, ranging from restaurants and hotels to food manufacturers, received halal certification. This number has continued to grow, and today the figure has surpassed 4,000 halal certified establishments across the island. This steady expansion shows that not only the strong demand for halal food, but also deliberate positioning of Singapore as an inclusive and welcoming destination for Muslim travelers. The economic value of this development is highly significant. In 2019, the domestic halal food market in Singapore was estimated at about 700 million Singapore dollars. At the same time, Muslim tourist spending in the culinary sector reached around $300 million. Taken together, the total halal culinary market is valued at roughly 1 billion Singapore dollars. This clearly demonstrates that halal certification is not only about compliance with religious standards, but also a powerful marketing strategy that directly supports the tourism sector. Within this context, Indonesian food establishments play an important role. According to TripAdvisor 2025, there are around 147 food outlets in Singapore serving Indonesian dishes, and the majority of these are halal certified. It shows that halal food is now mainstream in Singapore, indicating how halal is not only a matter of faith, but also a strong economic force. When we look at Singapore's food scene today, it reflects the cultural complexity of a truly multicultural society. Halal food has become an integral part of this landscape. In fact, Singapore is recognized as a leading player in the halal tourism industry. But what exactly does halal mean? The word comes from Arabic and simply means permissible under Islamic law, especially regarding food and drink. This concept is central to Muslim life, but it has also become a bridge to connect religious practice with business and tourism. The roots of halal food in Singapore cannot be separated from migration. Many Malays in Singapore came from Malaysia and Indonesia in early 20th century, including ethnic Malays, Javanese, and Boyanese. As Taniali explained, Islam is deeply ingrained in Malay culture. And migrants from Indonesia brought with them their faith, their tradition, and their food. And like many diaspora communities across the world, they found comfort in maintaining their cultural identity, and one of the most important ways to do so was through cuisine. Food became both a reminder of home and a service to their community in a new land. Despite the long presence of Indonesian food in Singapore, there has been very little academic work that specifically studies Indonesian food establishments in this city-state, particularly, and Indonesian food establishments abroad generally. Their role in building Singapore's halal food ecosystem has remained underexplored. Therefore, this leads to the central questions of my research: how have Indonesian food establishments in Singapore contributed to the development of halal food options and to halal tourism? To answer this question, I use three approaches. The first is food history, which helps me to understand the long development of Indonesian restaurants and eateries in Singapore. The second is halal governance, which allows me to see how these food places respond to the needs of Singapore's Muslim minority and support the halal tourism infrastructure. The third is nation branding and gastro-diplomacy, which considers how restaurants are not just business, but also cultural and diplomatic actors that represent Indonesian abroad. My study focuses on Indonesian food establishments in Singapore. This includes restaurants, small eateries, hawker stalls, and other places that use Indonesian geographical or cultural branding. And since I haven't yet completed my qualification exam, I have not been able to conduct interviews for the data collection. Therefore, the findings presented here are based on archival sources, observations, and preliminary analysis. I collect data using three main methods. First, I do observation of food outlets and their customers. Second, I carry out archival research, especially looking at newspaper and records available at the National Library of Singapore. And third, I do content analysis by studying online reviews, blogs, menus, social media, and branding materials. Together, these methods give me both historical depth and contemporary perspective. Having outlined the methods that guide this study, let us now turn to the historical development where satay emerged as an early marker of Indonesian food presence in Singapore. Satay, or meat skewers with peanut sauce, was introduced by Japanese migrants who began selling the dish in large numbers, initially door-to-door in the early 20th century. The satay vendors occupied the Katong Park area as their market center in the 1930s. In the late 1940s, satay was a popular food among Singaporeans that tourists loved. Today, satay holds a special place at Lau Pasat, one of the city's most popular tourist food destinations, where the evening satay street offers halal certified skewers enjoyed by both locals and international visitors. Similarly, in the early 1920s, Haji Marlian Attar and Hajah Rosman Mailu migrated from West Sumatra, the then Dutch East Indies, to Singapore, starting a nasi padang using a postcard, or nasi padang or a padang rice. In the following years, their venture expanded to a small restaurant on the corner of Pusora Street, where the family continued running the Sabar Menanti Nasi Padang restaurant for several decades. This restaurant is one of the oldest Nasi Padang restaurants in Singapore. The existence of Nasi Padang, in particular, as well as other foods of Indonesian origin, is deeply related to the availability of halal food for the Muslim minority in Singapore due to cultural and religious similarities. Singapore food historian Kir Johari conceptualizes this as serumpun, meaning being a different shoots but springing from the same root, particularly in the context of cuisine. On the other hand, there are hawker stalls and kiosks that bring Indonesian halal dishes to wider audiences. These hawker stalls are especially important because they reach locals, international tourists, and Indonesian migrants in Singapore all at once. They show how Indonesian food became part of Singapore's everyday culture while remaining connected to religious identity. Muslims in Singapore are a minority, only around 15% of the total population. For a long time, this meant finding halal food was not easy. In the past, Muslims depended on informal signs such as Muslim-owned to know which food was safe to eat. But this changed in 1978 when Majelis Ugama Islam Singapore, or the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore, became the official body to manage halal certification. MUIS professionalized and standardized halal food, making it reliable not only for Muslims, but also for a business that wanted to attract Muslim customers. MUIS certification means several things in practice. It ensures that no pork or alcohol is used in the food. It guarantees that meat is slaughtered according to Islamic rules. It requires separate equipment that is only used for halal food. It includes regular checks and staff training in halal practices. Even the supply chain is verified. In Singapore today, there are 3 recognized levels of halal. The highest is MUIS certified, then Muslim-owned, and finally Muslim-friendly. This layer system gives consumers different levels of assurance. In the 1990s, the demand for halal certification in Singapore increased rapidly. One milestone was when A&W became the first fast food chain to obtain halal certification. This development signaled how halal assurance was no longer limited to small Muslim-owned outlets, but had entered mainstream consumer culture. The Singaporean government strongly supported this growth by hosting international halal exhibitions and conferences, positioning the country as a hub in the global halal food industry. A turning point came in 1995 during the International Muslim Food and Technology Exhibition, or IMFEX. At this event, the Ministry of State for Trade and Industry, Goh Chewi, urged local food producers to apply for halal certification more seriously. He emphasized that out of 320 food companies, only 99 had been certified, which showed the need for stronger industry participation. Importantly, he also underlined that the market for halal food was not limited to Muslims, since many non-Muslims also consumed halal products. This broadened the meaning of halal food from being purely religious to becoming a matter of trust, hygiene, and quality that could appeal to all. This period marked the beginning of halal tourism as deliberate national strategy. By 1998, the Singapore Muslim Consumer Guide was launched, listing over 100 halal restaurants and food outlets. This not only gave Muslim residents and travelers clear access to halal certified places, but also promoted Singapore as a Muslim-friendly destination. From then on, halal certification became a tool not only of religious governance, but also of tourism brand, with long-term implication for Singapore's positioning in global market. When we place this trajectory in the broader context of tourism, the picture becomes clear, like the Routledge Handbook of Gastronomic Tourism in 2021 reminds us that food tourism today is not only about eating, but also about sustainability, authenticity, digital branding, and destination image. In Singapore's case, halal certification became more than a religious stamp. It evolved into an assurance of authenticity and safety, which in turn contributed to building Singapore's destination brand. Meanwhile, food tourism in Asia, as edited by Professor Park, highlights the duality of food's role as food for tourism and tourism for food. And Singapore's halal strategy fits nearly into both. Okay, I think several weeks ago, I saw this Taipei City Muslim Women-Friendly City Destination of the Year near my place here in Singapore. Having lived in Taiwan for 6 months last year and witnessed its effort to promote halal tourism, I would say that this shows how Taiwan is now more actively targeting the regional Muslim market in insular Southeast Asia. This recognition is issued by Crescent Rating and Halal Trip, two international organizations that produce the Global Muslim Travel Index. My colleague Setyaningsih and Fuadi explained that Taiwan was not originally a Muslim-friendly destination. However, with the arrival of Indonesian Muslim migrants in the 1990s, followed by Indonesian Muslim students and travelers as well, Taiwan saw the opportunity to welcome Muslim travelers. Indonesian Muslim organizations in Taiwan, such as Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, Indonesian Islamic Student Associations, played an important role in creating a supportive environment that encouraged Taiwan to become more welcoming to Muslim travelers. Taiwan Halal certification has been handled mainly by the Chinese Muslim Association. And in contrast, Singapore institutionalized halal food much earlier with MUIS, and this early state-led initiative gave Singapore a competitive advantage in the global halal tourism industry. Tourism itself was not originally part of Lee Kuan Yew's plan for Singapore, but it became a practical solution to unemployment in the late 1970s. Since then, Indonesian visitors have consistently been among the largest groups of tourists coming to Singapore. And for the expanding Malay Muslim middle class in Southeast Asia in early 1990s, halal certification became both a religious guarantee and a symbol of upward mobility. This trend also shaped their travel patterns abroad, where halal assurance influenced where they choose to visit and spend their money. This brings us to the idea of communication. Halal tourism illustrates how religion can also become part of the market. Religious values are turned into products with certification, branding, trust as the key element. Halal tourism refers to travel experiences for Muslims that aligned with Islamic religious and cultural values, encompassing services like halal food, alcohol-free environments, prayer facilities, and gender-specific options while avoiding forbidden elements like gambling. Apparently, according to some scholars, there is no clear difference between the various terms halal, Muslim-friendly, or Islamic tourism. And today, halal tourism is one of the fastest growing segments of the global travel industry. By 2026, it is expected that 230 million Muslim travelers will spend around $300 billion worldwide. In 2024, Singapore welcomed almost 2.5 million visitors from Indonesia and 1.2 million from Malaysia, both Muslim majority countries in Southeast Asia. These two markets form a strong base of regional Muslim travelers whose preferences and travel behaviors have become central to Singapore's tourism strategy. With such number, it is not surprising that in 2025, Singapore was ranked as the top Muslim-friendly travel destination outside the Organization of Islamic Cooperation for the third year in a row. This achievement reflects the country's deliberate effort to provide facilities, services, and cultural experiences that meet the expectation of Muslim travelers, while also positioning itself as a leader in the global halal tourism sector. Academic studies confirm why this focus on halal is so important. Wibowo et al. Demonstrated that halal food is the most decisive factor in shaping destination image for Indonesian Muslim travelers. For them, the assurance of halal dining is not only about religious observance, but also about comfort, safety, and the overall quality of their travel experience. Similarly, Hanafia and Hamdan highlight that Malaysian Muslim travelers show a clear preferences for destinations where halal certified food is easy to find and socially encouraged. This means that halal food access is not just a matter of individual choice, but also shaped by family expectation and community norms that reinforce halal consumption during travel. This halalification of tourism shows how halal has been commodified, turning a religious value into a marketing tool in which certification, branding, and trust become central to attracting Muslim travelers. In line with this trend, halal tourism further demonstrates how religion is commodified as halal food, prayer spaces, and certification are turned into branded products to attract Muslim travelers. Since 2006, the Singapore Tourism Board, or STB, launched the Muslim Visitors Guide as part of methods to attract more Muslim tourists, especially from the Middle East and Southeast Asian countries. The guide catalogs restaurants that have obtained halal certification from the MUIS to provide certainty and convenience for international Muslim tourists in choosing places to eat where Indonesian halal establishments are consistently present. Although not published annually, the latest editions of the Muslim Visitors Guide feature a number of curated Indonesian halal establishments, ranging from long-established to new generation eateries were listed, namely Jiton Cafe in Orchard Road, Rumah Makan Minang in Kampung Glam, Sama-Sama by Tok Tok, Cumi Bali Indonesian Restaurants, Indo Chili, and Bebek Goreng Pandut. While STB brands Singapore through halal guides that feature Indonesian restaurants, these eateries at the same time act as instruments of Indonesia's gastrodiplomacy. Rockover defines gastrodiplomacy as a form of public diplomacy that combines cultural diplomacy, culinary diplomacy, and nation branding to make foreign culture tangible to the taste and touch. In light of this, Pam explains that the gastrodiplomacy is also part of nations' efforts to promote their cultures, build their image, globalize their food industries, attract foreign tourists, and build relations with foreign publics. Closely related to this is the concept of nation branding, which Dini and Sternatoni describe as a multidimensional blend of elements that give a country cultural distinction and relevance for its target audiences. Within this framework, food becomes not only a commodity, but also a cultural symbol. For example, long-established Indonesian restaurants in the Netherlands or modern dining spaces, they function as sites of gastrodiplomacy, culinary ambassadors that transform food into soft power, connecting diaspora identity, collective memory, and Indonesia's cultural image in the global arena. This demonstrates how gastrodiplomacy operates in everyday context, even outside formal state-led programs. Before Indonesia launched its official gastrodiplomacy initiative, Indonesia Spice Up the World in 2021, which has the objective of increasing Indonesian restaurants globally to 4,000 restaurants, the country had already engaged in several culinary diplomacy projects such as Spice It Up Indonesia, Wonderful Indonesia co-branding, and other promotional campaigns. These theoretical ideas of gastrodiplomacy became clearer when we look at Indonesian food establishments in Singapore. One of the earliest examples is Rumah Makan Minang, which can be traced back to Rumah Makan Sabar Menanti in Kampung Glam. While Rumah Makan Minang represents long-established diaspora restaurants, newer generations have also contributed to Indonesia's culinary presence in Singapore. A good example is Indo Chili. Indo Chili was founded in 2012 in Singapore. The restaurant serves food from Javanese nasi langgi, soto Betawi, chicken satay Madura, for is a part of 20 outlets owned by the Java Kitchen Group. Its recipes are rooted in family heritage and use many herbs and spices that have long been part of Indonesian cooking. Indo Chili is halal certified, making it a trusted place for Muslim dinners in Singapore. What is most interesting part of Indo Chili is that besides it's featured on Muslim Visitor Guide published by Singapore Tourism Board, Indochile also an unofficial partner of Wonderful Indonesia co-branding, a pioneer gastro diplomacy initiative launched in 2008 that brought together 100 Indonesian diaspora restaurants worldwide.
Prima, you
And
have about 1
recently,
minute left.
a group of Singaporean youth founded Warung Anak Indo in Haji Lane, carrying
Prima, you have about 1 minute left, okay?
Okay. Carrying a concept of vintage generation nostalgia for young customers in Cozy Comfort Food Cafe. The menu features a blend of traditional village dishes already well known in Singapore, such as gado-gado, nasi goreng, bakso, and ayam penyet. It also introduces lesser known Indonesian street foods to the Singaporean patrons, including tahu sumedang and Indonesian branded instant noodles Indomie. In conclusion, Indonesian food establishments in Singapore play several important roles at once. Indonesian food establishments in Singapore have traditionally fulfilled the religious obligation of the Muslim minority in the city-state. Through halal certification institutionalized by MUIS, the Singaporean government has effectively linked religious practice with economic opportunities, further expanding this into halal tourism initiatives. Being a Muslim-majority nation, Indonesia's food establishments carry its national identity, and therefore most of them are halal dining places. It is also important to note that Indonesians have consistently been among the top visitors to Singapore, and with around 85% of Indonesia's population being Muslim, the demand for halal food for this particular visitor group is especially significant. Therefore, these establishments are not only eateries, but also cultural actors that align the food with Singapore's state-led halal branding, cater to Muslim travelers, and reinforce the country's reputation as a Muslim-friendly destination. At the same time, they also serve as a non-state agent for Indonesia's gastro diplomacy by extending the nation's culinary presence abroad and drawing attention from the international public. From a food tourism perspective, Indonesian halal food establishments illustrate how food functions simultaneously as a resort for attracting Muslim tourists and as a medium for expressing Indonesian cultural identity. By framing halal food as both an assurance of faith and a driver of tourism experience, they contribute to destination image and cultural branding in ways that go beyond the act of dining. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Prima. All right, and our final presentation will be by Dr. Kelsi Matwick. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Media and Communications at Stanford University. Kelsi earned both her PhD and MA in linguistics at the University of Florida. Most recently, she spent a year in Japan as a Fulbright scholar, teaching courses on American food, media, and culture. So she was both in Tokyo and in Okinawa. Today, she will present Tastes of Travel, Omiyage, and the Edible Geographies of Japanese Tourism. So since she is based in the US, there was some difficulties in the time, so she went ahead and did a pre-recorded presentation. So just you may notice a similarity in our names and our appearances. So yes, she is my identical twin sister. All right. We'll go ahead and yes, begin the recording. Thank you. Great, thank you. Got it.
Hello, my talk explores the tastes of travel, omiyage, and the edible geographies of Japanese tourism. I'm Kelsi Matwick. I'm a professor at Stanford University. Thank you for your presence. It is an honor to present at the Culinary Mind. I'm an American food scholar and linguist. I had the honor of being a Fulbright scholar in Japan during 2024 and 2025. I taught culinary diplomacy in Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology, as well as the University of Ryukyu in Okinawa. My presentation draws from my time in Japan. Have you ever given or received a food gift? Then you have participated in omiyage. For example, my university, Stanford University, is in Birmingham, Alabama. So Alabama pecans are a favorite food gift. In Japan, cookies, chocolate, and sweets are popular food gifts. These are examples of omiyage. So what is omiyage? Omiyage is an edible, region-specific gift. In Japanese culture, omiyage are gifts brought back from travels to share with others. The practice is rooted in the concept of giri, which signifies social obligation and reciprocity. Bringing omiyage is a way to acknowledge relationships, express gratitude, especially for those who have helped or supported you while you were on your trip. For example, here is at Yokohama Harbor, little cakes. These I brought back during my time in Yokohama when I ran the Yokohama Marathon with my twin sister. So I brought these Yokohama Harbor little cakes back to my colleagues in Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology as expressing thank you, and it also represents the area, and so it is a special gift. So there is a cultural expectation of omiyage, where you bring back gifts to family, and more than that, it reinforces social bonds and it acknowledges this interconnectedness of daily life, where omiyage is a representation of place, identity, and history. So we'll take a closer look at how the visual language and packaging design reinforce these cultural narratives. Omiyage serves as a form of edible geography by linking food, packaging, and place to shape cultural narratives. So culinary tourism is not just about tasting, it's about encountering culture through food. Food becomes a narrative and performance that reinforces place-based identities. Omiyage operates within this frame. Tourists consume, select, and gift food to reproduce a shared cultural geography, where I will frame omiyage as a site where food, tourism, and performance intersect. Food geography is where food's cultural geographies, like cultural geography more broadly, can be best characterized by the sense of texture, creativity, and public engagement. Culinary tourism, drawing from Lucy Long's concept, the intentional exploratory participation in the foodways of others, where culinary tourism is about encountering culture through food. For multimodal discourse analysis, there are multiple resources for meaning making, such as image, color, text, layout, sound, movement. All these modes are treated as culturally and socially shaped. Omiyage operates within this frame. Geographies of Food provides a framework for understanding the relationship between food, place, and society. We'll examine how food shapes and is shaped by location, landscapes, and culture. Omiyage literally means earth local produce. Omiyage is a combination of two kanji, earth and product, which means a typical product, especially of the region. Omiyage and souvenirs are quite different, where omiyage is a common practice in Japanese culture, where you bring gifts to family, friends, and loved ones. The gifts are carefully packaged and illustrate the place in design, images, and text. The local element is very important part of omiyage that distinguishes it from souvenir. Omiyage are usually snacks, sweets, and local foods. This is because different regions in Japan have their own unique flavor and preference on food. Their mebutsu, or especially, is available at local gift shops, especially at train stations. To appreciate the role of omiyage today, it's important to understand where this tradition comes from. The practice of gift giving in Japan is believed to have originated with pilgrimages to Shinto shrines. During the Edo period, pilgrims would bring back mementos to show their families and friends that they had visited these sacred sites. In the early days, omiyage needed to be lightweight, non-perishable, and easy to transport. So common gifts included fans, tea, knives, ladles, and kimono sashes. But beyond their practical function, these gifts carry spiritual meaning. It was believed that the blessings received by the pilgrims during their journey could be transferred to the recipients of these items. So this reinforced the idea that omiyage was more than just a souvenir. It was a way to share an experience, a place, and even a sense of divine connection. This historical foundation sets the stage for how omiyage evolved in the rich cultural practice we see today. As Japan's railway system developed, edibles like mochi, sweets, and biscuits became more common. The efficient rail network allowed for the easy transportation of local produced edible items like sweets and snacks significantly contributing to the popularity of omiyage as food gifts across the country. Travel is incomplete without omiyage, where we plan trips around famous food products. Omiyage are often sold at train stations, airports, and department stores. Kyoto Station is a major transportation hub like Tokyo Station and Osaka Station. It offers many stores to buy souvenirs and gifts. Here I'm at Kyoto Station at one of the food stalls, so it's selling special Kyoto matcha products and seasonal flavors like these strawberry flavored cookies and sweets. The visual language and packaging design reinforce the cultural narratives of the products. Omiyage shops are at train stations, department stores, airports. Here, the Iseten food floor is one of the premier department stores in Tokyo. The food bazaar is a whole floor. It's a basement floor of the Japanese department store. From sweets to savory, the food options are endless. What characterizes food omiyage is the need to both appeal to commonly accepted tastes while at the same time distinguish the product from other similar products and identify with its place of origin. Since 1960, the Japan Federation of Gifts and Souvenirs have held an annual omiyage competition aimed at promoting best practices in the souvenir business. The majority of the awards have been food, where food is an important part of gift giving for a number of reasons. Food is an intimate gift. It implies comfort and closeness, where food is a primary need for humans and offering it implies emotional support. Food is a gift that covers a wide range of prices, so it can be appropriate for almost any occasion. This preference for sweet and savory foods is clearly reflected in the portfolio of over 9,000 omiyage listed on the website, Omiya Data. The website is a souvenir data. The majority are candies, sweets, and savory snacks, except for a few drinks. And every year, new ones are continually added. The food gift market historically has been an important part of the local and national economy. Omiyage were originally available for eating just on the spot, near the store, and along the walking trails for the pilgrimages. It has become an important source of income for rural economies then, and then also continues to be now. Food is a gift which covers a wide range of prices, and Japanese gift giving is elaborate and it's an important part of social interaction, where gift exchanges are highly ritualized and elaborate forms of social interaction in Japan. And then the most common gifts are gifts of food. Today, the retail market is significant of the economy. So here we see that there's an expected increase of the market sales with omiyage every year. So the packaging of the omiyage is a way to manifest place of origin. Meaning arises from the interaction of multiple modes. For example, food labels communicate through visual design, typography, logo placement, and linguistic content. They're often attractive, seasonal designs that communicate the region, refinement. Packaging is part of the performance. It signifies this authentic locality. Nara is one of Japan's prefectures. One of the most memorable experiences when you visit Nara is to encounter the wild deer. There are about 1,400 deer living around Nara Park, and they're closely connected with the gods. There's a legend that in AD 768, the first of the 4 gods of the shrine traveled all the way from the north of Tokyo to Nara on a white deer. Thereafter, deer were considered sacred, and killing one was punishable by death. Today, they're protected by national monuments and revered as holy animals in Nara. The deer are wild, but they enjoy eating special crackers, which are sold around Nara Park, and the deer will approach humans. These crackers are especially made to be safe for the deer and are the only food you can give them. Sometimes they can get impatient to eat the crackers, so be careful. They often can overwhelm small children. So avoid teasing the deer or trying to grab them. So in Nara, you can find traditional Japanese sweets and other sweet potato treats. which are sweet potato shaped treats at places in Nara. They're specialty shops focused solely on the sweet potato tarts. And here you can see with the design that it features some of the deer. The Nara sweet potato tart is known for its sweet potato treats. And the ingredients, they typically feature the mashed Japanese sweet potato, which is special of the region, and the purple signifies this color. These omiyage are sweet potato tarts celebrating the 60th Shinken Zotai, or the reconstruction of the shrine at the shrine in Nara Prefecture. The official website has an explanation about the ceremony process. The ceremony is based on the Japanese belief that prayers for the divine power to flourish more youthfully and powerfully by rebuilding and repairing the shrine where the gods reside and the sacred treasures that are kept within the shrine using the gods' royal funds. The shrine has performed this ceremony almost every 20 years since its founding. And so that this would make a great souvenir, where the transcription, you can see it says Nara, sweet potato tart, and then celebratory gifts, 60th Shikanen Zotai, reconstruction of the shrine. These Nara rice crackers are based on the Nara deer crackers. It comes in a can with a cute deer design, and the rice crackers are also stamped with the deer. The product is very Nara-esque, with all of the deer prominently featured on the design. So continuing with the semiotics of these Nara rice crackers, so not only are they cute, but they also are carefully made rice crackers using traditional methods by the famous rice cracker shop. So both the rice cracker shop, the traditional methods, the deer, these are all help convey this cultural narrative and the geography of the place. So the design signifies Nara. A girl is depicted on the can feeding the deer, much like you will find at the place in Nara with the deer. So the lid of the can shows the deer of the same round rice crackers. And they're shaped like those fed to the deer, but they're thicker and have a touch of honey flavor. So Nara Omiyage are selling their histories. Culinary tourism is about groups using food to sell their histories and to construct marketable and publicly attractive identity. The deer reinforce Nara's place identity, or packaging piques tourists' curiosity. It's a way to stand out among other products. As another example, in Kofu City, Japan, there's a confectionery shop that represents the region. A signature product is the Kikyo Shingen Mochi. Here, the company has partnered with Kit Kat, where the design is distinctive of the Kikyo Shingen Mochi. So the design top of the box features an intricate design inspired by the furoshiki, which is traditional cloth used for wrapping. So both the red and white color, the design, and then the actual packaging reinforce this traditional method and make the product stand out. The box's back features a product description of the Kikyo Shingen Mochi, offering an informative, authoritative message. It's a signature product and one of the most popular souvenirs. So this Kit Kat is connecting with the traditional product, reinforcing the specialty of the region. Opening the box reveals Kit Kats in small packets, and each have a brief story about the product. So it creates this anticipation before tasting. And then you can even already smell the mochi flavor, brown sugar and honey of the Kit Kat. The Kit Kat packaging is in two colors, red and white, so it makes them auspicious and attractive. And it also are the colors of the mochi product of the region. So inside is the classic Kit Kat shape in the creamy color, also continuing with the flavors of the mochi. The size is roughly the size of a business card. So a business card gift giving is very ritualized in Japan. So it further reinforces the importance and tradition of gift giving in Japan. Why omiyage matters. Omiyage connects taste to place, where food is a sign of communication. Food is shared with and given to others as a fundamental social link. Food sums up and transmits a situation. It is information and meaning. So Omiyage isn't just a gift, it's a social and economic and emotional practice. Omiyage is not simply a souvenir, it is a cultural performance that transforms food into cultural practice, taste into geography, and tourism into tradition. Thank you. I would love to continue the conversation with you. Here are my contact information. Here are my key references, including Bars, Cook, Crescent Van Leeuwen, Lucy Long, Mintz. Thank you for your time again.
All right, well, fantastic. Those are three wonderful presentations, such a variety and so many different locations from Phuket to Singapore to Japan. That was fascinating.